Good morning, or I guess that's good afternoon, and welcome to SpringFest 2018, the Innovation and Demo Center. My name is Fred Rosen. I am the president and founder of Spectrum Building Services, and this is my colleague, Mr. Ray Kolcheski. Today we are going to speak about environmental solutions to two very relevant issues of growing importance facing multiple resident living, and that would be hoarding and mold remediation. You know, 28 years ago, when I founded Spectrum, with a core commitment to offer our clientele with trained technicians, innovative, sound, and socially responsible solutions to our clients' concerns and needs. Today, I'm proud to say we service over 800 buildings in the GTA and pretty well every major hotel in the city, including the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, the Royal York, and even the Trump Hotel. Sorry, we didn't vote for them, we just maintained the hotel. Yes. Last year we handled almost 1,000 floods in the GTA. We are also quite proud of the fact that we are Canada's only carbon neutral cleaning company. Oh, there we go. The services that Spectrum provides for our clients are carpet cleaning, carpet dyeing, and all forms of carpet repairs, 24-hour a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, 1 hour emergency flood and fire emergency service. I might add, all our technicians are IICRC trained and certified. We offer full mold remediation, including air testing and mold assessments. We offer complete restorations, including painting, flooring, and drywall. We provide for our clients a full runner program, sales, installation, and year-round maintenance. And one of the things I'm going to be speaking to you today about is another service we provide, and that's what we call extreme cleaning, which is primarily trauma cleanups and hoarding cleanups. You know, in the last 28 years, Spectrum has been in operation. There have been many changes and challenges facing multiple resident living. Two of the greatest issues evolving over the last 10 years in our industry has been hoarding and mold. Oddly, when I first started servicing condominiums, I had never heard of hoarding. Yes, I'm certain it did exist, but with the exponential rise in condominium ownership and 2 reality TV shows, it appears this issue is everywhere. Today I'm going to directly address what is hoarding, who is a hoarder, dealing with hoarders, and environmentally sound solutions to hoarding for the apartment and condominium industry. Hoarding is currently classified by the American Psychiatric Association as an obsessive-compulsive disorder defined as, and I quote, repetition of a behavior or act. In this case, I might add, the act is not throwing things out, that impinges on the individual's social, professional, and family relationships. The behaviors interfere with the way one lives their lives. The behavior becomes their life. The American Psychiatric Association estimates there are over 2 million hoarders in the United States, just under 1% of the total population. In the practical terms, or in our practical terms, that really works out to 1 hoarder for every 125 units you're currently managing. Although this condition can initiate in teenage years, the onset is most common to occur after the age of 50. It's not uncommon for the breaking point to be the sudden loss of a relationship or a loved one. In simple terms, Hoarders usually are people who have felt without control while suffering a loss, and they attempt to gain control over their lives and environment by controlling what they throw out and not throw out. And if you look and compare this type of obsessive compulsive disorder to some other ones, which are a little bit more common maybe, and let's look at, for example, like hand washing. You know, in that case, the individual has an unrealistic fear of being contaminated. And so their response to control that fear or to lower their anxiety is to wash their hands repeatedly. But obviously, it's easy to see how washing your hands over 500 times a day is going to interfere with a normal life. With hoarders, they control their anxiety or their fear by not throwing things out. As a property manager, these situations are of concern for basically two vital reasons. Firstly, it's a biohazard. It is not uncommon in hoarding units due to the buildup of garbage, food, and in many cases, urine and fecal matter, that the environment of the resident and subsequently the neighbors are also threatened. And this is primarily due to bug infestation, possible rodents, and bacterial and airborne pathogens as well. Cross-contamination of the entire building is at risk. The second major reason why this is of concern as a property manager would be in the event of an emergency. As you're aware, in the event of emergency, you need access to the unit for water shut-off. You need access to the unit for electrical. In the event of an emergency, if access to the unit is impossible, then the building's environment is compromised and threatened. Sorry about that. As a property manager, what do you do if you suspect a resident is a hoarder, and what is the process involved? Well, first and foremost, like dealing with any human being, we speak to the resident. We show your concern. You communicate clearly why you are concerned. You're concerned because you're looking after the resident's well-being and you're looking after the well-being of the building. You're there and you're trying to help. At all times in dealing, be pleasant, professional, and firm. If the resident is receptive, first off, solicit or ask if there's any family member or friend who's available to help her at this time. Having a person she trusts speeds up the process and helps her in the decisions in terms of throwing things out and allows the cleanup to proceed. The second important thing, if they are receptive, as I mentioned earlier, quickly, firmly, effectively, in and out. You have to move at a pace the resident allows, but always try to move things along. As I said before, the hoarder just wants to hoard and be left alone. So if you want to accomplish anything, you must be moving them forward the whole time. They will want to delay, delay, and delay. What do you do if the resident is not compliant? Well, in this case, the resident denies entry, will not discuss. After all, most hoarders, as I mentioned, want to be left alone and just hoard. This is not unusual, but let me go through the unpleasant steps that will now follow. Most likely at this point in time, you're going to contact your company or condominium lawyer. Condominium lawyers, for example, are well versed in the issue of hoarding. Most likely they'll recommend your first step would be to contact the fire department. The fire chief will arrive very promptly, usually within 1 day, and will ask to enter the unit to inspect it to see that there are clear access lines in case an emergency service is needed. If they are denied permission to enter, they will return in 24 hours to attempt again. If they are unsuccessful this time, the fire department, now along with the police department, will come and notify the resident of an inspection to occur or to remedy it after a 30-day period of time. In 30 days, if the situation is not remedied and if access is still denied, the corporation can then petition the court to enter the unit to clean and charge all the costs involved to the resident. If the resident still denies entry, police have the power to arrest, but don't. Common at this point is the resident might even be removed for a short period of time for some type of psychiatric evaluation. As you can see and tell, if the hoarder is not compliant, it is a long, painful, expensive journey to ensure your building safety. I'd like to briefly discuss two cases that we've been involved with over the last couple of months. The first case was a lady, lived in Mississauga, 63 years of age. The manager had concerns and approached the resident. The manager outlined her concerns for the resident and the building environment. At first, the resident refused entry. The manager then contacted the fire department, who gave her a 30-day inspection notice. After 10 days, the resident approached the manager and said she needed help. The manager contacted Spectrum. We're on site for 3 days solid. She had a family friend sit with her the entire time. As the process was completed, the resident seemed genuinely relieved that this, and as I say, like in our business, this is kind of like a happy ending. Case number 2, 68-year-old lady. If you notice, by the way, again, most hoarders over the age of 60, a high percentage are also ladies. 68-year-old hoarder in Midtown Toronto condominium. This story, unfortunately, does not have a very happy ending. The resident ignores the manager, ignores the fire department, and ultimately ignores numerous court orders. Finally, after 9 months of legals, with a police escort, we've entered the unit. The cost of the legals and the cleanup came out to almost $100,000. It will all be back charged to the resident. Thank God for inflated prices of condominiums. I guess they have equity now to do these things. The unit was in extreme condition. I remember there's around 4 feet of garbage throughout, and the resident literally crawled over the garbage from one room to the other room. It got to the point, even in the back of the building where we had a bin for disposal, that the resident would go in every night and would crawl and grab the garbage from the garbage bin and bring it back up to her unit as well. The building just hired a security guard and back charged her that as well. As a property manager, you will definitely come in contact with a hoarding situation. And as a property manager, you must do something. It is not acceptable to allow the resident or the building safety and well-being to be jeopardized. Now, Spectrum offers the environmentally, socially responsible, complete biohazard remediation. The normal cleanup routine would be as follows. A team of 4 technicians, led by an IICRC certified biohazard supervisor, will start to work through the unit. First, they'll arrange to have a bin for the disposal of all garbage and contents. Second, they will tarp the corridor and everywhere in the elevator and everywhere, basically to protect the environment of the building that you're in, so there is no cross-contamination as they're removing items out of the building. After all debris and garbage are removed, all surfaces and entire unit is treated with a 100% environmentally friendly antibacterial mold agent called Benefact. Now, Benefact is a 100% natural and antimicrobial agent made up of plant extract oil. And this is my chance to do a great, my prop. Hold on a sec. Well, anyways, about that prop, it was a twig of thyme because Benefact is made up of 90% thyme oil extract, and that's the active ingredient. Sorry about that. I know it's here somewhere. Anyway, The use of benefact is not only used to disinfect areas, it is used also the active anti-mold ingredient used in mold remediation. I would like to reintroduce my colleague, Mr. Ray Kaczewski, who will now speak to you regarding mold, what it is, how to act, how to assess it, how to detect it, and environmentally sound solutions to remediate mold. Ray?
Thank you very much. My name is Ray Kaczewski. I'm a professional mold assessor at Spectrum Building Services. Today I'm here to talk to you about mold in living situations. So this could be inside of your home or a condominium. So we're at Spectrum Building Services, the M word. What is mold? So first you need to know, what is mold? Well, mold is a fungus, and it can grow in any sort of organic material. It can grow in an indoor or an outdoor environment. And it's not necessarily the fact that you have mold inside of a living space that's dangerous, but more so the high concentration levels. In every living space, there's going to be some mold in the air quality. But if it's at a high enough concentration, that's when we can have respiratory problems. So we need to know what creates mold to begin with. Well, mold needs 4 things in order to grow. First thing it needs is time. In ideal conditions, mold can grow in as little as 24 hours. Mold will also need the correct temperature. The correct temperature for mold, the best one that it thrives at, is room temperature. So that would be anything from 18 to 23 degrees Celsius, but it can also grow in lower and higher temperatures. This is one of the reasons why mold is such a problem inside of living spaces, is because it's at the correct temperature for it to grow. Mold will also need a moisture source in order to grow. This can be anything as little as steam from a shower or a flood or a leak that was unattended to. Mold will also need a food source. It needs any sort of organic material in order to grow. So that can be, let's say in your living room, could be your baseboard or your drywall. That's what it likes to grow on. So, how do we identify the mold that we have in our living space? Do we have mold, or is it just dirt? We don't know. So we're going to go through some of the things that will help us identify if it is mold or not. So first and foremost is the visible presence of mold. In the photo on the right, you can see this unit that is completely encompassed with mold. This was a gentleman who accidentally left his shower on for 3 months when he went on vacation, and the steam grew mold all over his entire condominium. It was a 2-bedroom unit that had to be completely gutted and rebuilt. Mold can be any color. It can't just be black, but it can be black, can be blue, green, white. It can be almost any color. It's typically fuzzy or furry in appearance and typically grows in clusters that are circular. And it tends to grow near the top ceiling if there was a leak from above, or near the bottom of the baseboard or laminate flooring if there was a leak that was hidden inside the wall cavity. Remember that mold needs moisture to grow. So determining where there's a water source can also help us detect where the mold is coming from. Water is typically colder than the surrounding environment. So at Spectrum, we can use an infrared camera to look through a living space to determine if there's any cold spots. If there's cold spots, that often means water, and where there's water, there's mold. Another tool we can use is a moisture meter. A moisture meter we can actually put right up to a piece of drywall or baseboard, and it will tell us how wet that piece of material is. We know the average dry material is around 15%, but if it's something higher than that, then there might be water behind there, and that can mean mold. Moisture meters will also detect humidity in the air, called the relative humidity. If there is a situation where there's a high humidity inside of somebody's living space and they have a cold window, then the humidity can condensate on the window and it can start to drip. And when it starts to drip, the water goes down onto the windowsill, which is usually made of wood or MDF, and that's an organic material that can start to grow mold. And this is one of the most common types of mold growth that we see today inside of anybody's home or condominium. So the second way that we can detect if there's mold inside of a living environment is going to be through the odor of mold or air quality testing. Mold has a particular earthy, musty kind of smell to it. If you smell something earthy or musty in an area that's also prone to dampness or constant moisture, then most likely you are smelling mold. Keep in mind that not all molds will release an odor, so you can still have mold even if you don't smell it. And also some molds will only smell when they're in the reproductive cycle, but if they're in the dormant cycle, then they may not smell. So the best thing to do is, if you suspect that you have mold inside of your living environment, is to get an air quality test. A professional mold assessment company will need to be brought in, and they will take a sample of the areas of your home. They will extract about 75 liters of air for about 5 minutes in each area. They will get this analyzed by a lab, and the lab will tell us exactly how much mold is inside of that air sample that we took from the area and what types of mold it is. It is really the only definitive way to show 100% if there is mold and what kind of mold there is. So what if we do have mold? What are we going to do about it if we have mold inside of our bathroom or our living area or anything like that? Well, it should always be removed by a professional mold remediation company. Our first step when we do a mold remediation is obviously to protect the technicians. So you'll see in the photos here, we'll wear the full Tyvek suit with boots, gloves, and a full face mask. The reason why we wear the mask with the organic air filters is because obviously the issue with mold is that when you breathe it in, it goes into your lungs, and that's when it causes problems. We also wear gloves because mold can actually cause skin damage if you touch it with your bare hands. The second step is setting up the containment chamber. Essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to isolate the area where we're going to be removing the moldy materials from the area that we want to keep clean. We will also install an air scrubber or air purifier inside of the containment chamber. This does two things. One is it will clean the air as we start to do the remediation. So as you're pulling off some of the pieces of drywall that have mold on them, it's going to spread spores into the air, which are going to get sucked up by the air filter. And it also creates a negative air pressure inside of the containment chamber. This is beneficial because if there are any holes inside the containment chamber is at a lower pressure, so only clean air is going to come in, and dirty air with mold is not going to go out. Once the containment chamber is constructed, the removal of the mold-infested materials can begin. Most porous materials, those being materials that are able to absorb water, should be removed and disposed of. Non-porous materials such as ceramic tiles, those can be cleaned with a biocide and reused. Keep in mind that when you see mold inside of a living space, let's say near your baseboard or under your windowsill, that most oftentimes the mold has grown within the wall cavity or within a ceiling cavity. So even though you may only see a little spot of mold at the very bottom of your baseboard, often inside the wall cavity or the ceiling cavity, there's much more mold. So a small job starts to become a big one very quickly. And the final thing that you should do after a mold remediation is completed is always get follow-up air quality sampling done. This is called clearance air sampling. What this will do is you'll have a mold consultant come in. They will take a sample of the air where the mold remediation was done, and they will get it tested to ensure that all the mold has been removed safely. In summary, if you do think that you have mold inside of your living space, call in a professional, call in a mold consultant, have them test it. If you do have mold, have a professional remediation company come in and remove the mold for you and get the clearance sampling done. That's all that we have for you today. Thank you very much.